Hi, and welcome to the Reiki from the Farm podcast, brought to you by me, Pam Allen-LeBlanc from Hidden Brook Farm. I am a scientist, a businesswoman, and a licensed Reiki master teacher with the International Center for Reiki Training. Each week in this podcast, you'll be entertained as you learn about a wide variety of relevant Reiki topics, helping you become a more knowledgeable and effective Reiki practitioner. We caution you, though, this podcast may also dramatically improve your life, and we are so happy that you're here. So welcome everyone to this month's Reiki Share, this week's podcast. We have a pretty big topic tonight. We're going to be talking about our trip in Africa and sharing a few pictures about that. So if you're listening to this and not watching it on YouTube, go ahead over to our YouTube channel. Just search for Reiki from the Farm or Pam Allen-LeBlanc, and you'll find it. And listen, while you're over there, can you do me a favor and just hit and subscribe? I would really appreciate that. And go ahead and have a look at some of the incredible animals that we saw. But we've got a lot to cover tonight, because not only are we going to share that, and are we going to share what the animals taught us and share a little bit about our experiences. And I've got a couple of the people from the trip who've joined us this evening. This is unscripted. I have no idea what they're going to say, but I'm going to ask them a few questions to share with you as well from their perspective how it was. But also, we're going to have a look at just everything that's going on in the world today, and how what we've learned there, what we've learned through the horses and some of the leadership from the horses, just how that can be applied right now, and how we can use Reiki with all of the energetic and emotional disturbances that we're experiencing, everything from war to non-confidence in leadership to just plain conflict, and the fact that there is a lot of conflict happening in the world right now. And some of it, I think, is deliberate. I think that as we're distracted with this, as we're focused on our positions on things, we're not paying attention to other things that are maybe even more important or potentially. So we're just going to talk about how we can get outside of that. And a lot of information is coming through. Probably going to continue on in the next podcast, because to be honest, I only got back a few days ago from Africa, and the experience was so incredible and so surreal that it hasn't all integrated yet. And I'm looking over at Tessa right now, who's nodding her head like, yeah, we were just talking about that. Liz, I don't know if you're feeling the same way, but so before we begin, I'd just like to let you know, though, about some of the things that we have coming up at the farm. And the first thing I want to let you know about is the fact that we've had to cancel the healthcare Reiki class that we had intended to hold at the end of March in Connecticut. Unfortunately, Tracy fell and broke her elbow, and so that's just made it not possible to continue on. And she's doing okay, but we just realized that there was a lot happening for her. There's actually a lot happening for me as well right now. And so we have canceled that class. I'm going to have a look at the June class, but keep an eye on the newsletter around all of the classes, and I will let you know if the June class is still a go. I think at this point it looks like it will be. And in that same vein, in March, the end of the month, we have our 2 business classes coming up that I'm going to be teaching with my daughter. So you're going to have 2 MBAs for the price of 1. We want to use our MBAs to help you. We realize that we're very fortunate to have been able to get a master's in business administration. We're both very fortunate to have gained a lot of business skills working in the business world. even prior to doing Reiki for both of us. And so we just want to put that to work for you, to save you some time, save you some money, save you some effort, point you in some directions. The first course is Start Your Business, and it's going to be focused around the Reiki Business Book. The second course is Grow Your Business. Now, for people who already have an active business and a website who are ready to grow their businesses. So it's going to be more focused around marketing. Now, it may be at the moment, we're planning to go ahead at the end of the month. We are going to have to change the structure a little bit. My dad's in the hospital, and so I've had to be spending most of my extra spare time with that. And that's looks like it's going to be continuing. So we may just be changing the structure a bit, in the sense that we'll send the reading material, instead of sending it ahead of the course, we'll send it a day or two after the class. And that structure, I think, is going to work better for everybody anyway. And depending on how things go, we may have to just postpone it by a month or so. But again, keep an eye on the newsletter, and anybody who is registered, I'll be getting in touch with you and just making sure that the new dates work and so on. And if they don't, you can have a refund if we do have to reschedule. But at the moment, I'm going to make every attempt to keep it on track for the timing that we have, because I'm really excited to help people grow their businesses at this time. I think the world needs Reiki more than ever. In April, I have all of my animal communication classes, level 1 and 2, level 3, professional practitioner and master teacher. And that is being offered online. Also, at the end of the month, I will have a Reiki level 1 and 2 class, followed by a Reiki master class, which are both online and in person at the farm. So if anybody wants an in-person class, this is the time to do that. In early May, that's followed by Animal Reiki 1 and 2, that is both online and in person over a weekend. And then Animal Reiki Master training that is only online over 4 evenings. And then after that, we'll be moving into our August classes, which will be on Campobello, which is exciting. So I wanted to welcome you all and just share the fact that we're going to be talking this evening about some of the global unrest, the Middle East conflict, the political polarization, just the fact that everything feels really uneasy right now. And why is that? Something that's really interesting, if you want to dive in a little bit to the astrology around it, there is an incredible amount of things happening astrologically. In fact, the theme right now, as Pluto moves into Aquarius, is that power is being rewritten. And I think that's what we're experiencing. That's what we're seeing. We're firmly now into a long Pluto in Aquarius cycle. It began recently, it's going to last for years. Pluto governs power, control, corruption, hidden systems, and it's about destruction and rebirth. So that, just to put into context what's happening. And I am by no means an expert on astrology, but whenever there are things happening in the world that I don't understand, I follow an astrologer that Kara got me aligned with, Elizabeth Peru, and I look to astrology to help understand it a little bit. Now, if we look at what's happening with Pluto governing power, control, corruption, hidden systems, destruction, and rebirth, Aquarius governs technology, the collective, social systems, revolution, and decentralization. So, what does that mean? Old power structures are being exposed. And let's face it, the old power structures were not working anymore. Governments, institutions, media, and financial systems are now under pressure. Technology meanwhile, is reshaping who holds power. And also, the collective is waking up, but it's not harmonious. The waking up isn't always comfortable for everyone. We're not necessarily in harmony. We're finding ourselves on both sides of the duality, which creates polarization. It can create extremism, rapid ideological shifts, and us versus them energy. And in fact, when I asked the people who are here in person what they needed help with before we started the share, it was like, how do I talk about this? How do I be in this without choosing sides or without appearing to choose sides? So just stepping out of that polarization and that us versus them energy. It's important for us to understand, though, this isn't random chaos. It is chaos. Don't get me wrong, but it's not random chaos. It's actually related to transformation. Now, we're also looking at dissolution versus discernment, this strong Pisces energy that's happening right now. Pisces governs illusion, spiritual awakening, collective emotion, compassion, escapism, and martyrdom. Now, the shadow of that is something that we're going to talk about quite a bit this evening. Victim consciousness is something that the animals of Africa really had a lot to say about. It's the other parts of the shadow are confusion, propaganda, emotional overwhelm, and spiritual bypassing, which is something that I've just recently had to look up. But in a way, I guess spiritual bypassing is something that I've witnessed from the beginning. I always used to joke about people who kept their eyes closed and their fingers in their ears and said, "La, there's only light, there's only light, there's only light." If there's only light, there wouldn't be anything for us to do, would there now? We came to a world that was a world of duality where there's both light and dark. There's both love and hate or love and fear. So this is the shadow of Pisces. So what's happening is that a lot of us are feeling emotionally saturated. We're disillusioned with the leadership, and that showed up in the chat earlier. We are longing for something to believe in, and we are being pulled, whether we like it or not, toward extremes. So there's a battle going on between illusion and clarity, victimhood and sovereignty, and escapism and embodiment. And today we're going to talk about how Reiki can bring us back into our own sovereignty and release that victim mentality. Now, as those things are happening, we're also in an eclipse season. And so we're in this window right now of eclipses. And what happens in eclipses is that things accelerate. Eclipses are going to expose what's hidden, speed up our timelines, trigger these collective turning points that we're in, and they're going to bring karmic themes to the surface. This often goes along with leadership shifts, escalations in war or war escalations, political shocks, and sudden public awakenings. We're seeing all of this right now, you guys. And so eclipses don't cause these events, they just reveal what was already unstable. And so the word that I've been using, the words that's been showing up in with the horses and with the card deck that we're creating on leadership, the word is disturbance. So what we're experiencing right now is this big disturbance. And so astrologically, disturbance right now is exposure plus acceleration. So what's already happening and then the fact that it's being accelerated. Now, with that in mind, I really wanted to dive into a topic that I talked about several months ago now when I was discussing Cal Newport's work and book around, is the right wing surge real or is it manufactured? And he really pointed us to the fact that there is a group of people who benefit from this movement toward the right wing, And a lot of it is actually manufactured, and it preys on our psychology that we want to belong to a group. So if we believe that group feels or thinks a certain way, we will set aside our own opinion in order to go with groupthink more often because we are psychologically hardwired to get along. And now the animals in Africa talk to us a lot about that too, and the importance of community and what can be accomplished with community. So that makes sense. Astrologically, we're feeling disoriented, economically threatened, spiritually disconnected, distrustful of institutions. So we're looking for things like certainty, authority, clear answers, strong leadership. That showed up. This is our nervous system's way of surviving. It's important to remember that whenever power is consolidated without wisdom, fear can become weaponized. So we're watching right now, what's happening is a global nervous system response. It's a struggle around the narrative, and it's a test of the integrity of the leadership. So, is there any wonder we're all feeling the way that we are? And then you've heard me talk sometimes, so there's a lot of themes coming together tonight. You've heard me talk about how our inner world always resembles our outer world. So, with that in mind, we are seeing war happening in our outer world. That outer conflict is often mirroring any inner fragmentation or inner conflict that we may have. So, right now, as a collective, here's what we're wrestling with: we're wrestling with power, truth, identity, belonging. And so, astrology talks about two ways that we can handle this, two options through integration or polarization. These are the options. So I really believe that Reiki can help us integrate this change so that we don't have to step into the duality. In fact, a word or an expression came up when I was talking with Tessa earlier. It really clearly showed up. It clearly showed up for this podcast: in the world, but not of it. And I thought, I think I want to understand a little bit more. What does that mean? In the world, but not of it. So I'm gonna swing back to that. But I do want to talk about the fact that, again, what's going on is not random. It's not a collapse. This is evolution and the pressure that can occur with evolution. And in fact, in an earlier session that I had today, the energy was talking about how pressure strengthens things. So just like a predator, the pressure of the predator keeps herds alert and healthy. This moment in time is forcing us to clarify our own values, step into our community, be strong in community together to figure out what healthy leadership looks like for us. And you know what? If it's not available, maybe to provide it. And it's also inviting us to release the victim mentality and step into conscious power. And we're going to swing back to those themes as well. This feels really intense right now because a whole lot of big cycles are all overlapping. Power is restructuring. We don't trust our institutions any longer to lead us. Technology is undergoing a huge revolution. Spiritually, we're disillusioned. There's an instability in leadership in a lot of areas, and then there's global conflict. So there's a lot going on all at once. It's easy when that happens to ask, okay, who's the enemy? And there's no greater way to bring people together than to, no easier way, I should say, than to have a common enemy. We've seen that in the past. It's a strategy that has been used throughout different political cycles. But instead of looking at that in Reiki, I think what we need to go to is, can we hold our center during a disturbance? Now, I want to swing back and talk to you a little bit about our trip in Africa and just some of the messages that we received there. They were absolutely, it was absolutely astounding, actually. And while I do that, I've got a couple of folks here with me this evening who were in Africa, who Liz and Tessa. And unfortunately, the other two who were with us couldn't make it this evening. But I just wanted to check in with them first, and then I'll show a few pictures and talk to you about my perspective and just ask, and I'll swing the camera around or to Tessa and just ask, so Tessa, what was your favorite part? What really stood out to you about our time together in Africa?
The animals.
The animals.
The animals. I had a sense of just, even though I wasn't from there, you just felt like you belonged even if you weren't from there.
Yeah.
That was immediate, that feeling as soon as I arrived. Yeah, I felt safe and surrounded, but then the animals were just beyond what I ever imagined it would be.
They were for me too.
Yeah.
We were completely among them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were walking beside them.
Yeah. Just standing there and watching them walk by us and
yeah,
all around us. And yeah, and not once felt like unsafe or feared because they were like feet away from you.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Couldn't believe it. We were about 6 feet away from wildebeest at one point. Yeah. I was like, can't believe I'm 6 feet away from a wildebeest. Yeah. And they were just lovely.
Yeah.
They were so gentle, and the people were so gentle.
Yeah.
And lovely as well. And in fact, it makes me think that we had asked one of the ladies who was doing the cooking for us, or the lady who was doing the cooking for us, how do you feel about us being here in your country to see the animals? And she said, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
When you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And just that, yeah, it was very peaceful.
Yeah.
Very, just a way of being that was just incredible. I agree. Thank you, Jessa. Liz, what about you? Is there anything you'd like to share? What stood out for you? And what did you enjoy the most? Are you able to unmute?
Yes, as you guys know, since you were there, but I had my special zebra moment.
Yes.
When the zebra came right up to my feet. I was managed to take a picture of the tips of my shoes and the hooves of the zebra to show how close it was to me. And remember, it got down on what I call the Sphinx position, and then it like did that submission roll. It rolled like an animal would,
yeah,
in submission, and that was really, for me, that was really special and profound. And like you and Tessa had just said, the fact that when we were doing the safari, they would come so close to the vehicle. I was really surprised, and just in a gentle way, like you said, they just stood there and just locked eyes with all of us. And I think you had said that Brian said that was not normal.
Our guide said that, yeah, it was not normal.
And he said that I felt like he was even impressed with, even though he was the guide. Because he was taking pictures himself. Like
he was taking pictures. I think he couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So that was really, I have a couple pictures. I have the picture of the first morning we went. It was right after sunrise. And I have the picture of the sunrise, the elephant, and then Mount Kilimanjaro in the background. And it's a very beautiful picture. And then remember the following morning we went and we had I call it the giraffe Stonehenge. Remember how they arranged themselves?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Unreal.
So I have a picture of that with the sunrise and then the giraffe Stonehenge. But it was funny because I do have a picture of the beforehand where the giraffes were just walking and eating normally. And then I have the last photo of when they did that formation and they're all facing us.
Yeah, they made that
Yeah.
semicircle
So,
and faced us. Yeah.
yeah. And it was, yeah, they stopped eating and just were staring. And like you said, too, the people of Kenya were so kind and so genuine, and they seemed much happier than what we are in the States. I like in you, I didn't feel unsafe at all. I felt comfortable no matter where we were. And so I'm very thankful I went. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Liz. I'm thankful that you went as well. And I saw a question from Michelle in the chat. She was wondering if we all had animal Reiki. In fact, we did. That was one of the things we did. We did 2 Reiki classes over there, and one person was taking them for the first time. Most people were reviewing them or maybe taking one of the classes for the first time, but we did a Reiki level 1 and 2 class on our first 2.5 days there. And then we followed that up with an animal Reiki class. And the animal Reiki class was incredible because we went over to a horse sanctuary for the first half of the day. And then the second class, we went to a game preserve called Navasha and Lake Navasha on Lake Navasha. And we actually had a hippo curfew. We had to be in back to the farmhouse. We were living amongst the animals. They were right there. They were on our lawn. And we went for a walk on our first evening there. And there were vervet monkeys and wildebeests and hartebeests and giraffes. And what else am I missing, Tessa? There were more animals than that. There were just impalas, and there were animals, so many birds and animals in the tree, and they were just all around us. And we could hear later that night, we heard hyenas, but there really weren't a lot of prey animals there. And you could just, or predators, sorry, they were all what we would consider prey animals. And zebras. Oh, yes, there were zebras everywhere. And I couldn't believe as we walked, and this was after we had done our first day of animal Reiki. So everybody in the group had animal Reiki, how close we could get to the animals. And they weren't really frightened of us at all. It was just amazing. We were walking, and then these giraffes just walked by. However, we did have a 6:30 p.m. curfew because that's when the hippos come out of the water. When the hippos come out of the water, they will kill you. And they can run 35 kilometers an hour over a sustained difference. And I can't run 30 kilometers an hour under any distance. So we knew that at 6:30 we had to get back to the farmhouse because as it was getting dark, they would be coming out of the water. It was just incredible. And in fact, as we did our attunement on the second day, we did it there at Navasha. We arrived supper time, about supper time, and had an opportunity to go for the walk and come back in time for the hippo curfew and have dinner together, and did a little bit more class that evening. And then the following day, we took the morning. Some of us went over to a place called Hell's Gate, and we saw even more animals, and we gathered armloads of obsidian because it was everywhere there. It was used in the gravel, the obsidian was. And we actually had a baboon get up and pee on our vehicle as we were there. And once again, just all kinds of beautiful animals, a few different animals. We started seeing warthogs there and the water buffalo. And I'm just trying to think. I think there were baboons there. There weren't baboons on Navasha. So it was just wonderful to visit this traditional Maasai homeland and learn more about their customs. And then the folks that stayed back went for another walk on the property. And later that morning, I guess we got up quite early for that, around 5 or 6, something like that. Later that morning, we took a boat and we got up close and personal with the hippos, which was quite lovely. And then we went over to an island where there was oh, Heather, are you here? I didn't realize you were here. I'm gonna call you on here in a minute. I didn't see you come in. We got onto this island and there were zebras and an ostrich that walked along with us. And the zebras, when Liz was talking about the zebras, one went, there were three that went right over to her and Christy. And then one laid down and rolled right beside Liz. And really, for any animal to show their belly, but especially an equine species, and this is just something I know as a horse person, like for them to roll near you, they have to feel very safe and comfortable. So it was just an incredible experience. And then later, as we did the second attunement on the front porch, I know I had my eyes closed during the attunement. And when I opened them, the three giraffes were right there. And up until then, they had been going around the edges of the property, but they were right there on the other side of our veranda. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, clearly they're taking part in this attunement. And later that evening, as we continued the class after dinner, we were doing another experience. They showed up on the lawn again, and Tessa noticed they actually, the big male ducked his head down, looked in the window at us, and made eye contact with us. And then later, the following morning, Christy was leaving at 5 a.m. They were laying on the lawn beside our house, beside her truck. She grabbed a picture of one of them. And then when we went to leave after breakfast later that morning, they blocked the road, wanted to say goodbye to us and just let us know that they received the Reiki and that they were going to be using it in the to in the management of that game park and in bringing harmony to the game park. It was just absolutely incredible. And we weren't even on safari yet. Heather, I didn't realize you were here. I'm glad you put something in the chat. Oh, yeah, the one that was looking in the house. I wonder if you would share what really stood out to you and what your favorite part was of the trip. Are you able to unmute and share?
Hi, everyone. Yes, that was one of my favorite parts about the trip. So I wanted to throw it in the chat to make sure someone mentioned it. It was truly remarkable looking up and seeing this giraffe right there. Another really powerful part was when we got to the safari. How many hours later? 3.5 hours later.
Yeah.
The other giraffe knew who you were because of the giraffe from the previous place.
Yeah. It's so funny. He said, "Oh, you're the giraffe lady." Yeah.
Yeah.
I was already told about you.
Yes. That was truly incredible. I would have to say that the sense of calm and peace that was there that I felt on that land was just remarkable. The way when the sun rose over or just behind the mountain there, it was just really beautiful. It lent so much majesty, I feel like, to that area. But there was one time in particular I felt there was one elephant that came close to the truck, and she looked at the truck and she looked at all of us, and then she walked to the front corner of the truck, the front left corner, and then to the front right corner, and to the side of the truck on the right hand side. She intentionally walked around each portion of the truck looking at us intently, and there was just a really beautiful exchange there. I was moved to tears by that feeling that I got from being that close to her. And I think one of the best parts was, if I would ask a question, Pam would get an answer from the animals. Liz mentioned that giraffe Stonehenge. I think that's a great image there.
Love that.
And then later we saw 3 of the giraffe, and I had this thought about them being late. And they said, "What is time?"
Yeah, the other giraffes had formed that beautiful Stonehenge semicircle, and and they were the only giraffes that weren't. And how many giraffes were there, you guys? 11, or I think I counted 13 or
In
something.
my photo, there's 12.
There's 12 in your photo, Liz. And they made this beautiful semicircle. And then later we found 3 giraffes that weren't part of that. Whereas normally we would only see a few giraffes together, like a family. And so seeing all 12 or 13 together was really something. On the horizon in the sunrise, it was like a postcard or a calendar or something. And so then when we saw those 3, yeah, Heather, you said, "You guys are late for the meeting." And they went, "What is time?"
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So I've taken Pam's animal communication courses as well, and had some exchanges, and it was just truly remarkable to be able to have those encounters. And I just think it was a remarkable ride. I just don't have the words, but it was truly wonderful. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. And Heather was actually planning to head to Cairo afterward, but when the war broke out, that plan had to change. And yeah, really. Yeah, go ahead.
May I share one more thing? Stay a little bit longer than everyone else in Nairobi. And when it came time for my flight, I shared a van with a gentleman who was flying to South Sudan. And he just said the most beautiful things because he was going to lead a group of a medical staff. And he said he tries to do his best to lead with kindness and to set that example and to show up early and to do the work as quickly as possible with integrity that he has. And I just thought that was really beautiful to hear. And it just reminded me, as you were speaking earlier, about leadership, that leadership can be out there.
And it doesn't mean that like, when I say leadership, one of the things is we're working through leadership that the horses taught us. And with the horse card deck, I'm going to talk about a few things that have shown up there too. It doesn't mean you have to be the supreme leader or anything like that. It's just, where in your life can you provide that leadership? And there are always opportunities. There are always opportunities for leadership. So I love that. Thank you. That was a really lovely addition, Heather. Guys, I'm going to try to, when are we going again, Joan? I think I'd love to go again next year, because it is true. By adding Reiki to the trip, who was it that said, I think it was you, Heather, that said it gave it just the right amount of structure, so that there was a bit of structure and there was that camaraderie with people who want to make a difference in the world. And then there were the animals, and it was just amazing and remarkable. So I'm hoping we can do it again next year, but I'm going to give Christy a few weeks to recover from there was a lot for her to do, as to get ready for us and get the meals planned. And you could just imagine how complicated our diets were. So with only eats fish to can't eat fish to vegetarian to only, it was no gluten. That's me. It was complicated. But we have discussed the potential of going like to South Africa next year. And I know I spoke with William Rand yesterday about it, and he was really blown away and said that he had always wanted to go to Africa, and he'd be happy to join us if we went again. So we'll have to see what unfolds there. But it really was absolutely astounding. So I do want it. And we did go on to safari. Let me see. I believe I can show you a few photos of some of the animals that we saw. And Donna says she's going to start saving now. That's a very good idea, Donna, because safaris are not inexpensive, but they're really great. So this is the first day we met some giraffes at a giraffe sanctuary. And it turns out there's three different types of giraffes. There's the Maasai giraffe and the, oh wait, reticulated giraffe, and then the Rothschild Ross Rothschild giraffe. And the Rothschild giraffe is the one in this picture. And they were critically endangered. So when they needed to be relocated from different areas for farmland and so on, there was a group that began bringing them in and working to preserve them and allow them to breed. And so this first picture with the giraffe with the tongue stuck out, we were able to feed these giraffes. But as we fed them, we had to watch out for headbutts. So I'm just going to let the photos scroll through a little bit, or I think I am. Maybe this is not. There we go. This is Zeus, who wanted to come in the house all the time. This is our carrots. Some of the food was amazing. Now, my husband put this together, so he had to include the food and pictures of flowers. Here's the wildebeests that we saw up close and personal, along with the little gazelles and impalas. This is the swamp and the hartebeest, the vervet monkeys that were all around. The zebras, we were so close to them. This is one of the horses from the sanctuary, and this was our visit to the sanctuary. Once again, the trees, and this was Hell's Gate, Elsa's Gate. These were some of the beautiful rock formations, and here's a wild giraffe, some baboons before they were peeing on our car. This was going out in the boats, and here are the hippos, some of the birds that we got to see. Cormorants, just like we have at home. But we saw a lot of different birds as well. And this is just our photo over on the island. Honeybee. Here's some hippos laying down close enough to us. The zebra at the picnic table. Some more hippos. When we were on the island, we did have to be careful of the zebras. This was the giraffe on our lawn in 5 in the morning. These are some baboons giving a piggyback to the babies and some more giraffes. These are the giraffes outside of our porch that I was telling you about. And a beautiful elephant. Some gorgeous photos. We all shared our photos. This is Mount Kilimanjaro. An elephant herd who were probably shedding their teeth, and some zebras. And this is the tiniest baby elephant that we saw. She was so sweet. And there she is nursing from her mama. This is a reticulated giraffe. Another beautiful elephant. And a hyena that was just laying on the road until we interrupted her. And this is a black rhinoceros. They tend to be a little more aggressive. And a warthog, they are on their knees to eat. And these are the lions that we saw the last day. And some water buffalo. The lions, again, were right beside the car. And I'll tell you a little bit about them. And the meals were absolutely legendary everywhere that we went. So that was just a quick run through of the animals. Oh, sorry, not Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Kenya. Thank you, Heather. That was correct. So Mount Kenya, and it was absolutely beautiful. So when we went on safari, yes, an elephant came over and she just really locked eyes with us. We had a beautiful communication. And I'll tell my husband, Donna, thank you for the pictures. And what was really clear was that I was to take a photo of the animal, like one, it was usually one animal. When I teach animal communication, I talk about how one animal will come forward to speak on behalf of a group. And so I was to take a photo of each animal, and they knew I was overwhelmed with being that close to them and just with how much we had seen and how much we experienced. I couldn't even write in my journal. There was just, there were no words for what was happening. And they just said, just take our photo for now. And we talked about a few things, but then they said, we'll talk later. And they showed me very clearly that I was to attempt to draw them or capture their likeness from the photo and then sit down and have a fuller conversation with them. And so it did start with that beautiful elephant who probably stayed with us close to 15 minutes, something like that. And it went on with just all of the beautiful animals. And I think next we came to a rhinoceros, and I asked if she could come closer to the vehicle so that we could see her closer. And she said, no, actually, I can't, because if I go closer to the vehicle, it will trigger my charge instinct. And then immediately after that, our guide said, that is a black rhino. They're very aggressive. And so it was amazing. And Lynn says that the animals are so beautiful and that she can see the joy in all of us. It was really astounding. And we were really brought up close and personal to the fact that the rhinos for quite a while were poached and hunted for their horns. And there was actually a rhinoceros graveyard, or it wasn't really it was a graveyard. Actually, it was a rhinoceros graveyard because so many had been poached. But several years ago, Kenya brought in the only time I ever saw a gun was as we were at Hell's Gate National Park, and there was a ranger there with an Uzi. And our guide explained to us that it's that they had been given permission to shoot to kill poachers. And as soon as that happened, then the poaching stopped. But until then, they lost a lot of rhinoceroses, they lost some elephants and different animals that for profit. But we did see amazing animals, and they had a lot of information for us too. The one animal that we saw so many things, the warthogs, the photo of the warthog, you may have noticed that it's on its knees to eat. Our guide said the warthog is the only animal that prays while it eats. Just the animals were absolutely astounding. And the one animal we hadn't seen on the last day until the last day was the lions. And our guide was really determined. And so, sure enough, we saw some lions at a watering stream. We saw four. And I was shown that we were going to see four lions. And the picture I saw it looked like four lionesses to me. But as a matter of fact, as we got really up close and personal with these lions, we saw one was like not a juvenile male, but a young enough male that he didn't have his mane yet. He appeared as a female to me in that picture. But I saw we were going to see four lions, and we did see four lions at the end. Unfortunately, there was a different vehicle than ours that wasn't really obeying the rules, and he chased the lions down a little bit and caused them to stop in an area. And when that van left, we were able to pull up, and we were right beside these two lions that you saw in the photo, and they were panting. They were obviously quite stressed. So in our vehicle, we all activated animal Reiki for them. And almost like within minutes, they flopped down and went to sleep beside the vehicle. It was like we were right there. And we couldn't believe, especially the male. He went boneless almost. Like he flopped right down. And we stayed there for quite a while, just amazed at the proximity, giving animal Reiki to these beautiful animals. And then a zebra, I think, made a little whoop sound in the bushes over to our left. And I think it is illegal, Andrea. We are going to report them. Liz got the license plate and everything, so we're going to report them. And as soon as that zebra made the whoop, sound, all four lions' heads came up and then they stalked off into the bush. And they showed me exactly the picture that I had seen the day before, only from a different angle. In the picture that they showed me was as if I was there and they were coming toward me, and instead they were going away from us. So it was incredible. But one really profound, that elephant from the first day, she really has stayed with me and she's really explained a lot of things to me. She came in front of our tents later that evening, or not that evening, the following evening, and she wanted me to know that it was the same elephant there, because there were 7 elephants, but she stayed and it was dark, so we couldn't really see her very well. But Janice called me out and we stayed there for probably close to a half an hour with her. And she kept saying friend so that I would understand that she was, and she stayed there. The other elephants went down for a different place for grass. She stayed exactly with us and had a beautiful conversation. So it was amazing. So guys, what did we learn? What did they teach us? That's where I want to go next, because there were some really profound messages for us. One of the things that I really wanted to understand was about the predator and prey relationship. And so I asked them about it, and they let me know that the prey animals let me know that, no, you believe we're victims. You are looking at this through a lens and a belief of victimhood. We are not victims. We know, we understand the circle of life. If we choose, we can come together as a community. And I was actually speaking to a very small antelope, the impalas, I believe it was. And they let me know that with our horns, if we choose, we can chase off any predator, even a lion. But we know that the lions keep our herd healthy. They make it so that we don't starve, that we don't overgrow the space that we're in. And they were like, we are not victims. And sometimes we do choose to work together in community. And sometimes we are aware that it's meant to be a different outcome. So they really encouraged me to let go of victim mentality for myself, but also as a lens that I view things through. And they showed that in what's happening in our world today, that if any one of us chose to come together in community, that there is no regime, no political force or will, no army that could overcome that unification, that unification consciousness. So that was really interesting and profound. And in fact, we had an opportunity to witness it. We had frightened a hyena. We didn't see the hyena, but we had gone past it in our vehicle and taken it away from its prey. It actually, or prey. Usually hyenas are the scavengers, so it was probably cleaning up a lion, an older lion kill. Apparently the lions will eat on a kill for 3 or 4 days or until it's gone. But then if it starts to smell, they move on, and that's when the hyenas move in. And so we startled this hyena away from its prey, and it started running across the savannah. And we ran into it later on as we drove, and our guide was very ethical. In fact, that was a big part of what we wanted with what we were doing, was that ethics and sustainability. And so as we were driving on the roads later on, we came across the same hyena. He had loped across the fields and met us at another place. And he was loping toward these 2 warthogs. And I know a hyena, they're pretty big and they could be a predator. And I was thinking, oh dear, and I hope the warthogs don't have babies. The warthogs were separate. They came together and chased that hyena off. Now warthogs are not very big, and they just formed a community of 2, and they literally chased that hyena away, which was just absolutely amazing. And so they let us know that they weren't victims, that they could unite to resist unhealthy leadership, that we as humans can unite to resist unhealthy leadership. We're starting to see that in different areas and pockets of the world. And that this culling can keep the herds healthy. They let us know that this is just nature, this isn't evil, and even instinct that happens within that is not evil, it's natural. And they also let me know that the attacks prevented complacency. And what it did was ensure that we appreciate our lives. And they said when we survive an attack, when we outrun it, we they said it can be boring. And when that happens, it's dramatic, it's exciting, and then we appreciate the boredom and so on. So they let us know that tension that it creates can be somewhat healthy. And they also, later on, I thought, okay, let me talk to the predators. I'm understanding from the aspect of the prey animals. Now, I wonder from the side of the predator. And so I wound up speaking to a lion, a female lion, and she let me know that it's an enormous responsibility to be a predator, that it was her job to maintain the balance of the ecosystem. And she took that really seriously. And at the same time, she did not see herself as better than the prey animals. In fact, the predators were in smaller groups. She actually even let me know that, gosh, it would be nice to be able to eat grass and survive and not to have to hunt and not to have to do what she did. So that was just a really interesting way of looking at things. And it caused me to wonder, like, what if nature understands leadership better than we do? Because there was a lot going on there. Now, talking about Heather having to shift her travel due to the war, the conflict that's happening right now in the Middle East, the political shifts, the right wing movements. One of the things I want each of us to do is to remain curious and question, is this real? Is this organic, or is this manufactured? Are people looking for something to believe in? Where have we lost trust? Have we lost trust in ourselves? Just question what is happening and what's going on. And it's becoming more and more difficult because we've got AI, we've got all kinds of made up news and news that has agendas and so on. So, what if we looked at it all, though, having rejected the victim consciousness? If we think about the animal lens, the prey don't collapse into helplessness. They're strategic. They stay alert, but not hysterical. Their nervous systems are aware, but they're not in a state of constantly being heightened. And they understand the need for balance in the ecosystem. So instead of victim mentality, I would call what they do more of an empowered awareness. They follow instinct rather than reactivity, and they look for true leadership versus dominance or dominance-based leadership. So there's an awful lot that I think that we can learn from that. And so one of the things that came through was the word of the world, in the world, but not of it. And so there's this old spiritual phrase that says we are meant to be in the world, but not of it. And what if that means that we participate in life, we care about what's happening, we show up for our communities, but we refuse to let the chaos that surrounds us to define us. We won't allow fear to hijack our nervous system. We don't allow the collective drama to become our identity. I really feel that's what the animals were telling us. I think that they exhibited it beautifully. They live fully in the ecosystem, but they are not psychologically trapped by it. So, what if we could do the same thing? What if we could step out of that? They respond to life, but they don't become victims of it. So, with these things in mind, I would like to move into a meditation that can, with Reiki, that can help us do exactly that. And so I'm just going to invite everyone to go ahead, and what we're looking at is moving from disturbance to sovereignty today. So I'm just going to invite you now to go ahead and activate Reiki, drawing whatever symbols that you wish to have with you here today. And then take a deep breath. Just allowing your body to settle. And tonight we begin our meditation in Africa. It's my intention to bring you there with us. This is the Cradle of Humanity. This is where Homo sapien, our species, began. I invite you to imagine that you're standing on the savannah with us. The air is warm and the earth is steady and solid beneath your feet. Below your feet, there is an earth star chakra. It's a few feet below your feet in the earth, and it's anchoring you deeply into the soil. You feel supported and you're not alone. In this age of disturbance, a herd gathers. We're all here. And this herd is calm. They're alert, but they're present. They're not panicked. They haven't collapsed. There is no victim energy here, just awareness. And as you gather together with this beautiful herd of Reiki practitioners, notice a predator moving toward us across the horizon. There's no hatred here. There's instinct. There's a role. There's a responsibility. Feel into this truth. Life is relational, not hierarchical. Relational. We are in relationship with ourselves and with each other, with our lives and with the earth, and with all life on earth. So bring your awareness now to your own inner predator and prey. Where do you feel hunted? Where do you feel defensive? Where do you feel a need to dominate? I invite you to place your hands on your heart now and invite Reiki to flow. And say to yourself, I release victim consciousness. I release the need to dominate. I return to sovereign presence. Now I invite you to imagine a beautiful light above your head. This is your soul star, a chakra that leads to the stellar gateway. You may notice a beautiful flame. You may notice the color of the energy. This soul star connects us to our higher wisdom. Through the soul star, the heavenly energies flow through, beautiful golden light. And just feel the energy of peace move through you, pouring down through you, through your mind, your throat, your heart, your solar plexus, your root chakra, and all the way down and into the earth. You become a bridge between heaven and earth. Then feel the beautiful energy of the earth move up through your earth star, through all of your chakras in your central left and right channels, and go up through your soul star and into the heavens. Feel yourself firmly connected to the earth and the heavens, the divinity that exists in both. And feel the peace in this moment in time, in your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, and your emotions. Allow your nervous system to quiet and rest. All is well. Now we invite the peace that we feel inwardly to extend outward. We send it to those who are in conflict, those who are in fear. We send it to those who are in power and to those who are suffering. And we're sending them Reiki not to rescue them, but to help them remember their sovereignty, their shared humanity, to remember community, the importance of community. And now we say to ourselves, may I be steady. May we remember. And may peace begin within. And we'll just breathe here together for a few moments before we close. Collectively, we send Reiki to peace on earth, and we say, may the followers of all the world's religions and spiritual paths work together to create peace among all people on earth. Feel the peace settle into your heart and take up a home there, remaining. Know that even amidst the chaos, even amidst the disturbances, you can always return to this space, this peace, this moment in time. Take a deep breath, and when you feel ready, you can gently return. Remember that the animals don't waste any energy in resentment. They act according to instinct, responsibility, and community. I wonder what would happen if we did the same. Thank you so much for being here with me this evening, or if you're listening later. I hope that you can take this piece into your world, and whenever you get a moment, stop and send peace to the conflicts that are happening in the world and any conflicts that show up within you. I think together as a community, we've got this. There is big change happening right now, but we can all navigate it. And in the end, it will probably be positive. And so we are not helpless. We're not victims. There's always something we can do. We can always send Reiki. Thank you so much for the beautiful light that you're spreading in the world. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Namaste.